Hey everybody, go ahead and type in the questions box here if you can see my screen and you've got audio coming through. All right, awesome. So welcome everybody to this Quantum Jump Consulting Group call here, Monday, March 20th, 2017. So for those of you guys that are new to these calls and you've never been on one of these, well, what are these calls about? So these calls are about any questions not covered in the content or the Q&A document that we have. They begin with who, what, when, where, why, and how. It's also for any check-in. So if you want to check in about something you've been working on or any progress or wins you'd like to share, this is a great place to do that. It's also for any questions to help boost your confidence or performance with sales calls. We always find those to be really, really helpful and important to the other people. And finally, guys, any tech questions you have regarding Social Lead Sniper, make sure you direct those to reviews@joshuaharris.co, and our tech will help you out, deal with anything related to that. So with that being said, let's dive right into some questions. So if you have a question or a check-in, go ahead and type in the chat and just say, hey, I've got some questions, and then we'll get you unmuted. All right, Alex has a question. Hey, Alex, got you unmuted.
Hey Josh,
How's it going?
it's going good. Actually, we've been moving to a new apartment, so I haven't found time to really do everything at the same time. Been pretty tired, but actually I get back on track, and I had two qualification calls today, and one was too early for him, so I told him that it would be better to get back when he's ready to action. And the other one, we booked a SS. So that one went pretty good, and I felt that the confidence was in place and everything. So it was pretty amazing. I have a question, Josh. When I used SLS pitch at the end, should I should I tell them a little bit about the process? Like, uh, we take the customer step by step, and basically at the end they schedule a call with you, or should I
No,
even?
I wouldn't get too much into it. I've talked about this on calls in the past. You really want to give a high-level overview of how it works, and then just keep it at that level. And then from there, they're going to ask their own specific questions about how it works, and you can fill in the blanks from there, right? So it's really about letting them ask you what's important to them, not like volunteering details that might just confuse them.
Mhm. Okay, because I think every call almost they never ask questions. Should I tell them from beginning that if you have any questions, we will take it at the end, so they really know that if they have a question, they can ask me. They don't have to be afraid. And should I tell them? Because I don't think that most of them haven't asked any questions when I after the SLS pitch. So I haven't got the chance to really tell them a little bit.
Hmm. Well, one of the things you can do if you think like they want to ask questions, you can say things like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like as you go through it, and then they'll either be like, yeah, no, that makes sense, and then they're basically confirming, I understand what you're saying.
Hmm.
You might just be really good at explaining it. Not everybody has a lot of questions. There's plenty of times I'll go through my offer with people, and then at the end it's like, okay, like they get it. They're like, yeah, it sounds really good, and their question is like, when could we get started, or something like that, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you don't really want like a million questions. A million questions doesn't necessarily mean that they're even that interested. That might just
Yeah.
be like curious, and they're like, oh, I've already decided to know, but might as well learn some more about this.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Josh. And also, I just wanna say thank you to Kenny specifically. I've been training on the script with him we, from Skype. So it's been awesome, and he noticed some things that I can improve. So I'm really glad to be in the group. People help each other. Love it.
Cool.
Thanks,
All right,
Josh.
man. You're welcome. Okay, Ethan's got a question. Hey, Ethan.
Hey Josh, how are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Good. have a few questions, but also just wanted to report just starting week 3, and I had a QC and I had a strategy session. Um, so I thought that was pretty cool that I already have had each of those a few weeks in.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So my questions for both ourselves and for our clients, do you recommend doing SLS on the weekends or just weekdays?
Um, I recommend doing it pretty much every day. I mean, the thing about it too is, it does run, pretty much on autopilot, when you've got it all set up properly and it's working. So there's really like no reason not to. The acceptance rate is typically lower on weekends, but you got to look at it from the incremental gain standpoint. So even if it's only 50% of what it is on a Monday, you're still better off getting that extra half day running it on a Sunday or a Saturday than by not running it at all. So I would say run it 7 days a week. You'll get more out of it for your clients. It's up to you. If you think you can get results, only doing Monday through Friday, then do that. But you'll definitely probably get a little bit more out of it if you run it on weekends as well.
Great. Next question. What are like poor, average, and good sales conversion rates?
Sure. So I don't know what all of those are. Like I haven't surveyed everybody. And part of it is too is like it's very difficult to survey it because it's kind of like I'd basically put it this way. There's before you've made your first sale, then there's after you've made your first sale, and then there's kind of like a huge, vast chasm of different levels of mastery. So what I typically see is the first sale is the hardest, and it's hard because it's mainly just a mental thing. People are thinking about it. Like you might even be like wondering, what do I do if I even get a client? So like one thing that you can do to help get over your hurdle of your first client is like just kind of like map out like, okay, I get on this call, this guy says yes, what happens next? Am I prepared? I just feel like everything is prepared, that the only thing you have, you have everything before and everything after is just a yes, that this makes sense, let's do this. And then once you get your first client, some people have to do 20 strategy sessions to get their first client. Some people only have to do one. I've had people get their first one on, just kind of out of luck on their first call. So there's a wide range of different possibilities there. But if I had to guess, I would say, another element of this whole thing is also lead quality, right? Like, are you counting everybody that comes on a qualifying call, or only the people that you qualify that you then have a strategy session with? So, to me, I think personally, sales numbers should only be measured based on people that are a good fit. Because if they're not a good fit, then that's not really in your control. Like you can't say, well, my sales rate is only X, and you're including all these people that aren't a good fit, because they get through regardless of what you do. Even myself, I still get people that try to talk with me or book calls with me that they make themselves sound like a good fit, and I talk to them 5 minutes in, they're just not a good fit. Is that count as a lack of conversion rate? You could ask 2 different people, get 2 different answers. So I think a good conversion rate you should look for would be 20% of people that are a good fit. And so if you talk to 5 people that are a good fit, you should close 1 in 5 of them, but keep everything else in mind that I've already said to you. So I don't know, does that give you any more clarity around how to look at it?
It does, because I'm not just wondering for myself, I'm wondering for clients, because the people we work with, they need to be able to close. And so I just need to figure out for them too, like, if I'm putting them on the phone with 20 people in a month, and they're closing X number, I just need to know what the problem is, if it's me, or if it's them, and so that's kind of why I was asking.
Yeah, it's really like leads are leads. The thing is like, look, if someone could buy, that means they're a good lead, in my opinion. If they can't buy no matter what, because they're just not even like in the market. Like let's say it's like, you're targeting attorneys. The guy you're talking to just got out of law school, or the guy isn't even a practicing attorney, he just has a friend. It's like, these are things where it's like that person could never say yes. If they could say yes, and you could help them, I consider that to be a target. So for them, if they're generating people that, want to do a project, like it is a wedding, or it's, you know, a photo shoot, or it's a video project, you know, and they actually want to do it, you know, then they've got the interest of someone that has a project to do at some point. So they should be closing those people. And so part of it can be like figure out what their lead generation process has been. Like, have they gotten leads from other sources in the past? Like, have they actually dealt with leads, or have they only dealt with referrals? And if they've only dealt with referrals, you can just say, you know, make sure they understand that, like, look, you know, referrals is one thing, like, but people that haven't heard of you, that's different. So do you have a defined sales process? You know, what is that process like? And then, you know, some people have kind of gotten over to that point where they kind of start offering guidelines to their clients. So it's an added value where you can say, like, you know, you don't just need leads. Eventually, you're going to figure out what the difference is between the people you work with that do really, really well at sales and those that don't, and then that can become part of what you offer is guidance on how to make sure that they're actually, you know, enrolling people at a high rate, and that'll help them with not only their referrals but also with the leads that you send them.
Right. Another question I had was the retargeting on Facebook. I know we've talked about that a little bit. At how many connections do you recommend that starts? Like, when we've gathered how many connections?
Well, I mean, you can do it with, I mean, the thing is, like, if you do it with only like 20 people, you know, that's going to be difficult. I mean, I would say you probably want to have like 250 people, but I haven't tried it with the super small amount of people. Just kind of realized that, like, $5 a day, I think you might be able to spend less than that. Like, you might be able to get away with like $3 a day, but I'm pretty sure like $5 a day might be an ad set minimum. So, I mean, if you're doing like $3 a day, if you can actually do that, and I can't even remember if you can do that, then yeah, you might be able to get away with like a couple hundred people in there. But yeah, I mean, it's really kind of up to you. Just as soon as you're starting to get a match in there, you can start doing it.
Okay, so like 250 would probably be a good minimum.
Yeah, probably. I mean, less than that, you know, it's like everybody's going to see your ad like a couple times a day, and then like after that, it's like it doesn't have enough people to cycle through to keep refreshing, right? Just like if you were only trying to connect with 20 people on LinkedIn, you sent them all connection requests and they all saw it, you know, the people that were interested said yes, their interest isn't going to change the next day. It's like there needs to be enough of a pool that you can recycle through to the point that it's not annoying, and they're like this guy is knocking on my door every day. I already said no yesterday, right?
Sure. Yeah, that's not bad. I actually thought it'd be more like 1,000 or something. So.
Yep. You could do it. I mean, it would just be like maybe you've written some articles on your site and you've got like 3 or 4 different ones. You know, as long as you could recycle it with something new, then it's like you could probably do it sooner. Just if you only have one ad, that's all you're going to run, then, you know, they're going to get sick of it and you'll just see the ad. What'll happen is you'll run it, it'll probably do well for one day, and the next day it's going to like, no one's going to click on it, you know, because now they've all seen it and they're not interested in it anymore, and then you'll just have to do a new ad. So really that's really the biggest thing, is just that you'll have to cycle through a lot of different ads with an audience that's really small, because it will fatigue a lot faster. Whereas like if you were in an interest of like 100,000 people, you could go through it and cycle through it for a long time without it getting exhausted.
Okay, cool. And then my last question, on a sales call, when, you know, I've read through some of the rebuttals for it's too expensive. I was wondering what you thought of responding like, well, yeah, I can understand that $2,000 out of $7,000 a month, it is too expensive, but you could be at $14,000 in 2 months, and then it's not too expensive. Like, just kind of showing them like, hey, it's not where you are now, it's a percentage of where you're going to be.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way you can try and do it. I mean, here's the problem is I typically don't see that turning it around unless you do like a pre-spike. And what I mean by that is, like, it's kind of like it's only powerful if you did it before they said that. So, you know, like one way you could do it is like if you're talking about well, I want to be at 14 grand, you know, but I'm currently at 7. You're like, so it's almost like you're losing out on $7,000 a month every month you're currently at this state. I mean, that's something I've done in the past. Like for me, it's like there's like a whole, like I could I could make sales calls go very long if I tried to like cram everything in there, right? So you have to kind of figure out what are the key points to put into a call to cover that doesn't sound unnatural and forced or things like that. So that's more like a pre-spike way of doing it. You're just talking about, so do you feel at this point like it's almost like you're missing out on that every month you don't have it? And a lot of people will be like, yeah, I just kind of feel like that. And at that point, it's like now it's planted the seed of, yeah, it's an investment to get where I'm going. So, I mean, other things can be like, well, cool. Well, yeah, I mean, it takes, if you want to get to beyond where you are, we've got to do something different than what we've been doing, because what we've been doing hasn't been working. So the only thing we know for sure is if we keep doing this, we won't hit the goals you want. And we talked about where you are. We talked about why you want to get to where you want to go. And we talked about why what you've currently been doing is not working to get you there. And so this is something that will help you get you to where you want to go. It's not like you're like, hey, I want to add $7,000 a month in revenue. I'm like, yeah, that'll be $7,000. It's like it's a percentage of the growth that you're going for. So, a lot of times I work with people, I'll just get down and I'll be like, look, either you think this process will work for you and it'll get you new clients, or you don't. And frankly, if you don't believe it'll get you clients, that's fine. I won't spend a month trying to prove you wrong, even if you did give me your money. Because honestly, you have to believe it's going to work just like I believe it'll work, because otherwise we're going to get in a situation where, you expect that it's not going to work, and then that comes across in how you do things. So, it's just kind of like a takeaway, right? You're just like, look, if you don't think it's going to work, then it probably won't. Maybe you don't think you can grow your business beyond where it is. Like one of the questions I like to ask people too is like, they're like, hey, I've got this goal to do this. Well, it's like, well, what was your plan to hit that goal before you spoke to me? A lot of times they'll either be like, oh, they didn't have a plan, or, they had a plan but it wasn't working, and another one you can tie and say, well, what would you do at $14,000 a month that you can't do right now? That's been a good one. And they'll be like, oh, I would do this, this, and this. So it's like you're just showing them, look, there's this contrast. There's who you are now and there's who you want to be. So you can't be who you want to be by not doing anything or by not changing anything. So either you give up on this dream of wanting to be different and you admit that you're not really that interested in being different, or you are interested and you are ready to make that change and you want me to help you make it. So which is it? And either of them is fine, but let's be honest with ourselves about where we're at. So is that helpful at all for you?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks a lot.
Cool. Any other questions?
No, that's it.
Cool. All right, Gunn has a check-in here. Hey, Gunn, I got you unmuted here.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How you doing?
Doing good. So, yeah, I just have a check-in, and I have one thing to discuss. So, my check-in is, over the weekend, I pretty much got all the technology set up for both myself and my insurance client. So I'm going to be starting my LinkedIn outreach process tonight. So we'll see how that goes. The second thing I wanted to discuss is that I was actually, over the weekend, referred a client by a friend that is actually a painting contractor. So they do like home improvement and paint houses, and they're interested in Facebook marketing. And I've never worked with a home improvement, a painting contractor before, but I said the guy really wanted me to come into his office and talk to him, and I kind of used some of your tactics to deflect him off and say that I want to basically qualify him first to make sure it's going to be a good fit, and so we should get on a call first. So I'm waiting to do that with them, but I was wondering if you had any input into that industry and my current situation.
I mean, for you, it's like you're just getting started, so you can look at it from two ways. Like if you can do the campaign and we have somebody in our contractor list who can get great results for them, great. I would just say that, you know, it's just better to work on getting traction in one of the two niches that you're working on now. If you had like a third niche to the plate, that's just going to complicate things. I mean, like you have the one client that you're able to kind of experiment with and work on getting a process in place in the insurance space. And then you've got all these dealer connections. So it's like you're just going to add too many different things, and then next thing you know, you've got like 5 or 6 clients all in different industries with all different needs, and you just kind of get stuck in this trap of too many different types of processes you're trying to actually improve. But then even then, like let's say you get them results, it's like, okay, well, you know, it doesn't really help you to have 2 or 3 markets that you have results in, because ultimately you're only going to market to one anyway. You know, there's more than enough in any one of those markets to hit the goals that you've set. So, I mean, to me, I just feel like it'd be a distraction, especially with your limited time right now. I'd be putting my time into, you know, getting more connections with dealers, and then looking at building out the current client, making sure they're on board. Because if you get this, it's like it's just going to be time you could be spending doing business development, doing fulfillment for someone you're not even going to be working with long term.
Right.
So it's your call there, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, and it's I see your point, and I guess like I would only, for me, yeah, I feel like I would only want to work with them if, you know, they were I feel like they were gonna be a really, really good client. And it's kind of tough at, you know, to make a decision that. Yeah. It's also kind of tough because at this point I'm getting started and I don't really have any clients, so I almost feel the need to take them on, you know?
Yep, I know what you mean. I mean, it's like this whole, like, got to fill the void, but the problem is that if you fill that up, like, a lot of times I see people, they might even go through a dry spout of like a month or whatever of doing this before they get clients, and they get that first client, but it's like, it's the client they want. And then they're building the business on the people they want, and they're sticking to that, and then that just builds momentum. You know, 2 clients in a space in one market is better than 2 separate clients in 2 different ones, you know, because then those guys can refer you to other people in that market. You know, this guy isn't likely to have contacts in these other industries that can be referred to you. You know, it's like, it's just so many little elements of it. So it's like, for me, it's like, yeah, it feels counterintuitive, but like, you got to understand that's coming from a scarcity mindset standpoint.
All right, that makes sense. And
that's
yeah,
a fear-based decision, not like a smart business decision.
Yeah. Well, would it hurt to take them on in a short term, and then like while I build everything else out, if it starts being successful, then I can stop working with them? But is that kind of bad?
Well, it's like, it doesn't quite work that way, right? Like, you want it to like be that way, but like it's not gonna go that way. Like there's a risk in taking on a client that I mean, you're gonna have to figure things out, because you're not just gonna take them on and then, oh, everything's gonna go great in this market I've never worked in. You know, you're gonna have to figure some things out, and then what if things don't go great? And it's like you took on a client and it didn't go great. It's like it was all for nothing. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, if you're trying to like figure out how to get results for a market or how to refine results and improve those, you're better off having every roll of the dice be in like the actual game you're playing, not like some other game that you go in and you know, gamble and get something and it's like, oh, that's great, but it's like, it isn't doing anything for your business long term. Like if you had like bought and sold like a dozen companies, you were looking at this, like that's not part of the business plan.
Right.
So it's like I said, it's like, it's up to you. I'm not saying you can't take on the client. I'm just saying that from a business plan standpoint, if you're looking at it of what's the proven route, that's kind of not really the proven route. And that's not even an industry that I would want to, I mean, painters specifically, that's not even like an industry that I think you could hit your goals in.
So hello? You broke up for a second.
I'm still here. I said, yeah, painters isn't even an industry that you'd be able to hit your goals in. So I would just pass on it. I mean, unless you just quit your job like today and you had all this free time now, and your current clients are only taking up like 3-4 hours a day, and your business development, you have like an extra couple hours, it's like, okay, well, yeah, it's better than driving for Uber or something while I'm like holding myself over financially, right? But that's not quite the case. So unless you've already like maxed out your time you can do to develop the business and the other niches that we're already in that you have like some experience and clients in right now, what you're doing is basically going to prevent you from getting more momentum in those markets.
That's good advice. I appreciate it, Josh.
Sure, no problem. Anything
That's
else
all
on
I
that?
had.
Okay, cool. All right, keep you posted.
I will.
All right, so question from Kenny. Hey, Kenny, got you unmuted?
Hey Josh, it's good to hop on board Mondays with these calls. So 2 questions I have is one is regarding your messaging in terms of content marketing, because I know when you were outreaching to me on your SLS, you were giving links to your webinars and stuff, offering value. I was interested in terms of in general, have you had success like sharing article links, or how has content messaging with SLS been? Or would you just advise not doing it until I get more advanced later on?
Yeah, I wouldn't get into a lot of that stuff until you get later on. I mean, that's typically more advanced things that I talk about with people once we've gotten a few clients under our belt and we've actually got some content that's actually going to be really useful.
Right. Okay, just something to put on the shelf for later, but something that's definitely to look for later on.
Yeah, I mean, there's like so many different things that you guys can do. The problem is like making sure you don't overwhelm yourself with like a list of all these things you can be doing, and then you end up not doing them. It's better to like do a few core things consistently every day than like just kind of chip away at all these other different strategies. So it's like you master one layer of the strategy, then you say, okay, how can I add another layer on top of this method that's already like proven, working, and everything like that to enhance it.
Definitely. Makes sense. I guess on top of that, like right now, I've just been really trying to focus on my sales script because that's the bottom line, right? Can get all these leads with your system, SLS, Woodpecker's running amazing. But right now, my free time, I'm just trying to, hash out my, do my affirmations, but also practice my sales script or selling ability. What would you recommend if I have like 30 minutes, an hour of time, like other free time? What can I be doing? Like I've been working on my messaging more. And
what are you spending, like what are you doing to work on your sales daily right now?
just going over the script and practicing it, basically. Just like re-saying it or listening to all your old calls where you give out like certain lines, trying to make that more instinctual.
How about listening to your own recorded calls?
Right. That's
Have
true.
you done any of that?
I listen to pieces and chunks where I know I've gotten up. I haven't listened to a full call yet. But that's a good idea. Like I've noticed
if you want to cringe, like the best thing you can do is just sit there and listen to your own call. And the cringe feeling never kind of goes away. I'll listen to my own calls. I'll be like, I sound like that, or oh, why did I say that? So like you never hit a point of perfection, but you can always hear the things like in your tone or in how you presented things or your timing. And so that's one of the single biggest things you can do is listen to every single one of your entire calls. Like if it was a person that was like, it's not like a totally unqualified person, like it was a decent fit on some level, listen to it and then, just tear it apart. Where did I go wrong? Where did I talk too much? Where did I not talk enough? Where did I not ask questions? Where did I ask the wrong questions? And just write up your own critique. And that's one of the best ways you can get ready, get better. My mastermind, I have like a joke with the different guys about Bill Belichick, who's the coach of the New England Patriots, and he's at this point considered to be pretty much like the greatest coach of all time. He's won more Super Bowls than pretty much anybody. And for him, how he got started and the reason he got so good is very simple. He's probably watched more film of people playing football than anybody. When he first got started, he basically was like, hey, I'll watch the film. So nobody wanted to watch the film. because it's boring. You sit there and you just watch it. And he did that. So for you, your version of film is, listening to my calls, but more importantly, listening to your own, right? You can watch film of people winning football games. What you really want to do is watch the film of the stuff where things didn't go well, where things didn't go quite right. What's the difference here? What's off? What's wrong? What can I change here? All of that stuff is so critical and important. So for you, follow in the footsteps of people that have been really good. It's practice and getting the reps in, but it's also analyzing what you're doing and figuring out why it's not where it could be, why it's not better.
Right. That's a good point. So you're like the Michael Jordan of looking at your tape. Why do you look at my own tape to see my glaring mistakes on my fundamentals? If I can't even dribble, it's like, why am I looking at you dunk a ball or something?
I mean, it's fun to watch it, but at the same time, it's like it's important that you definitely go through and see where you're falling short, and then that's going to help you. So if you've got time every day, I'd go back to my calls, start listening to all of them. Any of the ones that you know that were good, or at least with someone who was qualified on some level, listen to it. And you're going to start, that'll probably be the single biggest thing you can do right now to get better. I don't know anybody that's really done really awesome at sales that hasn't gone through and listened to their calls. I can almost guarantee it. There's like nobody I know of that was like not closing, who listened to their own calls and went through a training like this and then didn't get results. Getting the success is all about just doing the things that make you uncomfortable that other people aren't willing to do. Very few people in the world are willing to listen to their own voice and critique themselves about how they can improve. Like that is a very, very small group of people because it's hard. But you know what? If you do that, you will be successful. It's inevitable.
Got it. One of the things I notice as I talk was a question mark, and I'm like, for real? I do that? It's not until you listen to the call, I'm like, Jesus. But you're right. That's something I'll do. Thank you for that, Josh.
So if that's what you're noticing as an issue, then like work on talking without that. Be like, go through and ask a question mark. Like give yourself, okay, here's me asking a question, here's me just making a statement, or whatever it is, and then go through those different iterations.
Right. Good point. Thank you.
Cool.
Also, one last question is, I know it's recommended to send out connection invites on the weekend, but now my question is, do you personally answer these LinkedIn messages or emails on the weekend?
I would say my advice is not to. That doesn't mean I always practice that for a couple of reasons. I mean, one, like if you're working on weekends and you're answering messages, it just kind of gives an impression that you're not relaxing or whatever like that, or that like you don't have much of a life. So it probably is better to answer them. It's also really not a great idea to like answer messages like immediately. Like if somebody like immediately, let's say like you message someone, they message you 2 days later, and then you write them back like within like 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Like you can get back to them within the day, but it's actually like not always good to get back to people immediately because it creates this like push-pull thing where it's like you're the one pursuing, right? And that just like encourages them to like lean back psychologically. So that's something that you can do to probably help a little bit. Is just don't be so like on the ball with answering questions like that. You condition people to expect that, or they look into it.
Right. Okay. So like creating just I guess more of an authoritative kind of vibe than like you're slaving away on the weekends.
Yeah, we gotta say like if I was like this successful consultant, would I be doing this? No.
Right. Okay. But still just try to send up the message because it doesn't hurt, right?
Yeah, I mean you can have the connection requests go out, but like I wouldn't reply on weekends.
Okay. Got it. Thank you, Josh. Been very helpful.
Sure, no problem, man. Okay, Steven has a question. Hey, Steven, you're unmuted.
Hey, what's up, Josh?
Not too much, man. How you doing?
Doing well, man. So I had my first qualified call for LinkedIn with the direct outreach process. Went pretty well. Just some questions really around, client mindset. So one of my client, well, the client that I had today on the call, basically he, he didn't want to talk like about his problems, like he didn't want to acknowledge them. And so since it was a qualification call, I didn't expect to go too deep into it. But like when I asked him why did you schedule this call with me today? Instead of like talking about, why he scheduled the call, he just immediately went into, well, I'm currently working with an SEO company. They're doing wonderful work. Like really talking like really great about the company he's working with and a couple other companies that are doing work for him. And then he immediately like contradicted himself and said, all I can expect is traffic from them, but when it comes to like the conversions, because I kind of asked him that question. I said, well, how's the quality, of your leads and conversions have been, and he kind of like immediately contradicted himself to his, saying how great they were to saying, well, all I can expect is traffic, and right now it's been a hit or miss with conversions, and they have been low the last year or so. So like. So I would say like, what would it be like to get them back on track to like answer like why did they schedule the call?
Well, he just told you. He just said that the reason he's talking to you is because conversions have been low over the last year. That's
Yeah,
just
but he
layer one.
didn't
I mean, he's not going to like get into it and be like, did he actually say, hey, the conversion rates are really low, are lower, and so we've made less money this last year than we did previously, which means that I've had to actually like go a little bit into debt, or take a pay cut, and so this big boat I just bought last year, because I thought we were going to make even more money the next year, is actually now starting to eat away at my profit, my nest egg, because instead of getting more money this year, we're actually getting a little bit less, and the number one challenge seems to be the quality of the leads that we're getting has dropped. Right? Like,
Right.
he's not going to say that. You got to read between the lines, right? He's saying
Yeah.
he's made less money,
Right.
or they're making less money. And so now we can dig into that. Okay, now he's given us a clue. All right, so you're getting traffic, but you're not getting conversions. Okay, what was
Right.
the conversion rate before? What is it now? What do you think's changed? What's their prescription for it? Are you going to continue to use these people if this continues? Because then if he's just like, yeah, well, it's
No,
I guess
he is though. That was his thing. Like he's like, yeah, I'm going to. He's like, I really like the SEO company. He's like, the reason why we went from 20 to 40 to 2 to 10 now is because I was with another company, but I wound up leaving them. So like he acknowledged that he left another company to go with this SEO company, but he's happy with the work. So it's almost like he has like in his mind, he thinks, their goal is not to generate leads, it's just to generate traffic, and somehow he thinks that's a good thing from a brand awareness perspective.
Yeah, well then I'd be like, okay, well, which is more important to you right now? Is it getting the new leads, or is it
Right.
getting the brand? Like, what's the main objective for you right now? Is it more brand awareness, or is it more leads?
Right.
Right? So then now, like, all you have to do is just, for lack of a better word here, just like use your brain and walk through the different steps with them, where it's like, okay, what's the issue? What do you really want? Do you want this or do you want this? You can't have brand awareness and leads at the same time. Okay? Right. If you want brand awareness, use a billboard.
Right. Right,
Right?
and that's what I wound up doing. I wound up spinning the conversation into that, like just throwing back the questions at him, and then he kind of got a little bit agitated at one point because he was like, "Well, what do you do? Like, I need to know exactly what you do. Like, do you do SEO? Do you do geofencing?" And I did the exact same thing from the script that we have. So like very high level, not talking about Google AdWords or any of those things. But I had to kind of spin in there with him way of saying, okay, look, what we're going to do is we're going to build a landing page for you, and then we're going to test out different traffic drivers and see what works the best and brings the highest return on your investment. So like,
Okay. Well,
throw in the landing page part.
how far into the call did you start like answering that question? Like, had you gotten through like his challenges if he wanted to change and his goals and all that stuff, or did any of that happen before you got to this pitch?
Yeah, absolutely. Like for the goal thing, for example, he said that he was at around 30 to 40,000 a month, and he was looking to make. Well, he at first he didn't even know what the hell he wanted. He was like, "I want more leads." And I'm like, "Well, how many more leads do you want?" And he was like, I don't know." He's like, I would like to go back to where I was before. I was like, well, where's before? And he was like 20 to 40. And I'm like, where are you at now? He's like 2 to 10. So that's when he answered, those type of
2 to
questions.
10,000 a month?
No, 2 to 10 leads, and he was at 20 to 40
okay.
prior.
Gotcha. So he's at 2 to 10 leads a month. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, as long as he's gone through the entire script process, it's fine if he asks you what you do because that's kind of like what you want at the end.
Yeah, but this is not the strategy. Like this was supposed to be like a pre-qualification call, but it turned into like a 45-minute call.
Yeah, well, that's where, like, for you, like, it turned into a strategy session. So, like, I would have just been like, look, at this point, it's a strategy session. Like, I would have just gone through the entire
That's
thing.
what I messed up.
So I wouldn't have tried to make it because that can happen. Like, sometimes you can be on a call, and it just sounded like this one totally morphed into a strategy session. But if it's a qualifying call, then you just get into it. You only ask, like, 3 questions.
I know.
Right? Like, three or four questions. So, like, for you, he got on, and he immediately took ownership, right? Why don't you tell me what you do, Stephen? And you just got up there and you told him what you did, right?
Right.
So instead of that, it's more of a, okay, like, well, we do a lot of different things, but let's figure out, what challenges you're facing right now, and then see if that's anything I can help you with, right?
Right.
So then from there, you get into it, and you're like, cool. So, what have you been doing for growth so far? I mean, he basically would have qualified himself with, okay, this, and I've done this, cool. So then from there would have been like, okay, well, I mean, based on what you told me here, it looks like it would make sense for us to dive into a more in-depth discussion. We'll analyze what you're doing, everything like that, and then, based on that, kind of put together what I think the best plan of action is to achieve the goals that you've got set. And then be like, here's the times I've got. I've got these 2 times. Do either of those work for you, right? And then from there he's like, okay, yep, I can do this time, cool. And then he's like, well, what do you do again? I'm an attorney growth specialist, right? And then if he's like, well, what do you do specifically? Well, we do a lot of different things, right? It's like this is a diagnosis situation. And then if he's like, and if he won't like respect that about you, being like, what do we do? Then don't even take the call. Just be like, cool. Well, look, that's not how we run these calls. And so if that's how you want to do it, then it sounds like this probably won't be a great fit for us to work together. But at least we found out now.
Yeah.
And then don't even do a strategy session, because then he's going to get on the call, he's going to run the call, and then he's going to basically squeeze the offer out of you just to tell you that it's dumb and it won't work and that he's not going to do it.
Right.
So
I think you nailed it.
Unless you got the alpha frame.
Right. So I need to take that ownership. No, I mean that helps out a lot, Josh, because honestly, what you just said, like, to me, I was thinking or asking too many questions. I should have just said less questions and just jump right to scheduling a call versus letting him keep going on kind of, I would say, rambling about what he's currently doing, and kind of like bypassing the questions, even though I did eventually get him to say yes to a 45-minute strategy session again, even though he was like, why, he's like, I don't even know what you do, like, why would I even hop on a 45-minute strategy call? And then I didn't say anything. I'm just like, hear like dead air, and then he finally was like, well, look, I really want to do this with you. I mean, it seems like what you're talking about and everything. I've seen the work that you've done. He's like, can we just like, he's like, I just need to know what you're doing. Like,
yeah, well,
like,
a lot of people want like the Tinder of like business people. Like, they just want to like swipe and just like hook up, and it's like, that's not how this works, right? There's a relationship here. There's a vetting process, and your choice with who you work with, and so are we. We're not just kind of out there for hire to anybody that has money. There are people we will not take their money from. And if I don't think that you're someone I want to work with, then I'm not going to make you an offer to work with you. That's very unsettling to people to hear that, because they're used to going to a car lot where no matter what their budget is and situation, there's a car they can leave the lot with, right? That's not how we do business. And so having that kind of frame of, look, I'm selective. We don't just work with anybody that has money. We want long-term relationships, but the person we work with is as important as your industry. And if you're going to strong-arm me and like lead the whole conversation and just try to talk me around, like, that's not how I'm going to work in this relationship. And it's like, you can still sell to those people, but those people will run you. You work for them, right? You don't work with them. So that's what the process is about. And so you just kind of get in and you just figure out, is this person going to be, is this someone that I can actually help or want to work with, and find out in 5-10 minutes and schedule a longer call. That's pretty much it. I think we have some example qualifying calls, I think, or at least a script, I'm pretty sure, in the sales training. So just review some of that stuff, and I'll just help you figure out how to set up the longer call. And then you get on the call, and then just kind of recap. Cool. So last time we spoke, we were right here and there. So based on that, let's dive into this. So what else have you done here? And then you just get right back into the script, and then get to the end and make an offer if they sound like they're gonna be a great client to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was my final question was with the strategy script. Now that a lot of it kind of was unfolded, it's like where would I dive in at there? Would I just go hitting them with more of the psychological questions of really getting him to reveal his problem and understand what his problem is, even though he has free partners of the firm and this, that, and the other. But he is the decision maker, as as the marketing person that facilitates that.
Yeah, I mean, a good question too. Then, like I mentioned earlier, is just like, hey, what would you guys do with 40 leads a month that you can't do right now, right? And then they'll be like I mean, for a lot of people, like that's a great way to open up that question, because then they start talking. Well, what is this plan? Like, you want to get here, but why do you want to get there? Well, it's because there's things you want to do that you're incapable of doing now. But if you're not incapable of doing them now, like you can do them now, then why do you really want to get there if you can do the things that you want to do now already, right? And so then you start to get into that conversation, and then he's like, yeah, I mean, we've been at a higher level before, and growth is stalling out or whatever, then that's a different conversation.
I see. I don't know. I think it may not be a good fit, to be honest. The more I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, he might not be a good fit. I mean, and if he's not, then
it's just because he's working with 4 companies, right? And it's like, it just seems like, I mean, because he even admitted that the one company that was generating leads for him, he's probably going to go with the geofencing with this SEO company because of the price difference. So it's like, it almost reminds me of a window shopper.
Yeah, so then just lean back, be like, cool. Well, it sounds like you got everything taken care of. You've got multiple different vendors, and things are going good. So if you try that and that doesn't work out, and you're ready for something different, I'll still be here kicking butt.
Right.
Hopefully, I'm not too busy.
So that's what I should do on the next call with him.
Yeah, just be like, just lean back. Be like, yeah. I mean, it looks like you're pretty happy with your current vendors. At least happy enough to let them keep doing what they're doing, even though your leads have dropped by 75%. So, if that's what you want to do, once you're, it sounds like one of two things will happen. Either things will go back to where they are, in which case that's great, because that's where you want them to be, or they won't, in which case if they still haven't, and you're tired of kind of spin your wheels with that, yeah, feel free to reach back out. Hopefully I won't have any clients in your area and not be able to take them on. It's like, you don't have to throw that in there, but it's like that's the kind of vibe you want to let off, right? It's just that, yeah, I'm going to be fine, because you are fine. They're the ones with the problem. They're the ones that had their leads drop by 75% and are going to basically try to solve that by giving the guy more money who screwed it up in the first place.
Well, then do you think I should just hit him with the price right off in the beginning? Be like, look, I looked at everything, and this is what it's going to be, and just basically run the price down on him, the management fee. And
go through the script with him, and if he goes through the phases and it sounds like I would address those points. Like, do you think that can you solve this problem another way? Like, why do you think this problem exists? Like, what's going to happen if you don't solve it? What else have you tried to solve it? What are your plans to work on solving this? So let's say 30 days from now, things haven't rebounded. What would you do then? Right? It's like, we need to figure out that there's some sort of a dead end, and it makes sense for you to come in. If there's no dead end, then, well, I can't really help you, can I?
Right.
Like, you either have a problem and you admit it and it needs to be solved now, or you don't. And if you don't have a problem, or you think it's going to get better on its own, like, do you think this will solve itself? Do you think this new thing will do it? They're like, yeah, no, I think it will. Great. Well, if it doesn't work, call me back, right? Because, they have to, nobody, if you're selling a parachute for $10,000 in an airplane, and they don't think the airplane's going to crash, they're not going to buy it. They need to look out the window, and they need to see that wing is starting to vibrate, and it looks like the engine's about to fall off. They have to believe that plane's going to crash. If they don't believe the plane's going to crash, they're not going to buy a parachute for $10,000.
All right. So you think I should then definitely try to ask them those questions, go back, just jump right into that, where we left, like
Yeah.
kind of recap where we left off, and then jump right into more of those, with the problem, more problem questions,
Yeah, more
and
problem
try to
questions and why this problem isn't going to get solved. And if it is going to get solved, then there's no point in us talking. I mean, that's it. It's all about the problem. What's the problem? Why are we talking? Why are the things that you're currently doing not going to solve that? Because the only reason we should be talking is because either the things haven't worked to the extent that you want, or on some level you don't think this will work. So which is it, right? Have things not worked as well as you want? Do you think this will actually solve the problem? I don't know. Okay, well then maybe you should figure out if it will before we actually consider another option. Because what's the point of me muddying the waters when you think this will actually solve it? Well, I don't know if it will solve it. Well, then why are you going to hire them? Right? So it's like there's a logical question to all of that, and then they either have to say, yeah, well, I don't think it's. You see, there's no way that all those statements will align.
Right.
And then if it's well, I think it'll work. Great, go work it. I don't think it'll work. Well, then why are you considering working with them if it hasn't worked? Is past performance a good indicator of future performance?
Exactly.
No? Yes? Okay. Right? It's like, you see what I'm saying? It's like there's just no way. Like, it makes no sense. But if his mind is already made up, then let him go do that. Maybe he needs to burn his hand on the stove another time and then come back.
I mean, there's definitely a reason why he decided to schedule a call with me and get on the phone with me. So, you know what I mean? So, like.
But if he won't admit it, then
yeah.
the call's over.
Right. That's what I got to tell him. Right.
Yeah. Just say, great. Well, it looks like everything's working just fine. Doesn't sound like it's that bad at all. Sounds like you had a little blip here, but it sounds like this other guy's going to get it all fixed with the geofencing. That's awesome, man. I love talking with people that are just telling me about their problems and how they're going to solve themselves magically.
Dude, like I'm telling you, when I was on the call, I was just like laughing. I was like I can't believe how many times he contradicted himself. But it's just amazing how he praised the actual company for being so good, and then after saying, "Oh, well, the leads weren't that great. I mean, they were on and off." It's like, what the hell?
But you got to call him out. You got to call him out on that contradiction. Be like, so you said that they're getting traffic and you're really happy with that, but then you also said you're not getting leads and you weren't happy. So are you happy with the company or
right
or not? Right? Like, just get him to clarify on the record what it is. He's either happy or he's not happy. He can't be both. And if he's happy with them, great. I'm glad you're happy with your current vendor. If that changes, feel free to reach back out. Right? If he's not happy, well, why aren't you happy? What do you need to be different? Why do you need it to be different? Do you need to be different now, or do you need to be different?
I think the only, like, just play role play with you right here. I think the only thing he's going to throw out, which is kind of what he said before, which is, well, the only thing I expect from them is really traffic.
Okay. Is traffic going to help you meet your goals?
Right.
Yeah. Has traffic helped you meet your goals this last quarter? Are you on track to hit your current revenue goals for the year?
Right.
No?
Right.
Why not? Yes? Great. You're talking to me and you're hitting your goals. That's never happened before. Right? It's like,
right.
People don't do that. Like, I don't talk to people. I mean, like, I had the classic example was I had somebody reach out to me. You probably saw this post. Like, he wanted to do some PR stuff, and he said he could do some articles and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I wasn't really that interested. But then I was like, yeah, no, this actually sounds good. So I was going to talk to him. But he got my interest, and I was going to talk to him, and then he screwed it up because he no-showed twice to appointments. But it's like, if someone's got their interest, they're talking to you. Like, people don't have time to hop on the phone. Like, successful people don't. People that can pay you don't have that unless they have a problem. And if they're on the phone, it's a problem, and if they want to admit it, then you need to just let them go. And then if they'll come back and they'll admit it and they'll be transparent, then you can be transparent with them about how you can help them.
Right. No, absolutely. I'm on the same page. I'm going to try it out Thursday. One last thing I have is when with the script itself, you say have the decision makers on the call, right? Well, since there's two other decision makers, right? I mean, he's the guy who knows all the digital stuff, quote unquote. That's what he says. And then the other two are not as digital savvy, but they would like need to look over something or whatever. So my thing is, would all three of them be on the call then?
I don't think you need to get all three of them on the call. I mean, what I would do, and this is what I would have done in the qualifying call a little bit, is been like, yeah, so how do you guys come to consensus on decisions you make about new people you work with, right? Things like that. And just get him to talk about like what that process is. If he's like, oh, we all talk about it, like I basically gather it. I have like the majors say, I just kind of run it by them. Like, do
Yeah.
you kind of tell your other partners, or do you kind of sell your other partners on what you want to do? That's a good one, right? Tell them versus sell them. And then he might be
I
like,
see.
oh, well, if I like something, I sell it to them. And then that's what we typically do. If I like it, we do it. Like, they'll just kind of just tell you that. I'm like, great. Well, I'm talking to the right guy. And then from there, you just say, okay, well, how long do you guys, before you make like the pitch and things like that and the incentive, if there's a lot of partners, you can just be like, well, how long does it usually take you guys to make a decision? Or when do you guys think you'll have your decision? And then you can just, hold incentive-based pricing in for that time period and things like that. Unless he's like the sole decision maker and he's like, no, I'm pretty much the guy. In which case it's like, all right, well, what's your decision? Do you want to do this or not?
Mm. And then basically, if they have to look over it, just ask for a deposit, right? Of 500.
Yep. If it's like just him. I mean, if there's other partners like that, I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes it's better just to let them make the decision and just give them a time limit.
I see. Mhm.
Especially if it's like three old crusty guys like that.
It is.
Um,
It's two old ones, and and he's the younger one. So I
yeah,
think
I
he's gonna
mean,
work
for
with
you, it can work either way. I mean, the deposit does work well, and a lot of times that's good at like sniffing out any bullshit about what their reasons are for moving forward.
Right.
If it's just one guy, always do the deposit if he's a decision maker.
I see. But when it's like a group setting, you would just recommend just sending over a proposal, or what it's going to be at a high level.
Well, you need to find out
And
when they're going to make their decision and what they need to make one.
mhm. Right, what day? Right. Cool.
Awesome.
Well, thanks, Josh.
You're welcome, man. All right, Mauricio's got a question here. Hey, man, got you unmuted.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How about yourself?
Good, man. I just wanted to get a question regarding just the campaign metrics after the first campaign is finished with the social lead sniper. So I'm looking at the email sequence, and right now I'm getting about from 384 emails I sent, 56% open rate, 1.6 reply rate. That's the first email, and the second email is about 12% reply rate. The third email is 5%. Fourth email is about 4%. And overall, I've done like about 10 qualifying calls, and I've had 5 strategy sessions, but only had really one. Well, so I had 5 strategy sessions scheduled, but I had only one strategy session so far because the other 4 have canceled. They just didn't show up for the call or just had to reschedule. So what do you think of that? Is that something I need to work on with the messaging, or something I can do?
Well, I mean, it is kind of like spring break for a lot of people. So that's one thing to keep in mind is like this is, like you just never know. So anytime it's around a holiday, you kind of have to take any sort of decisions or things like that with a grain of salt because, people can be traveling like that more. The qualifying calls you did have, like, why do you think none of them showed? Like, why do you think only 1 in 5 showed up?
I don't know. I haven't gotten a response yet from 1, 2, 3 of them. So 3 of them I haven't gotten a response yet. And the other guy before we had a call scheduled, he wasn't really a fit. He was looking for different types of services. So he just, I told him, hey, we're not a fit. So that's basically it. That's basically where I'm at. Yeah, you're right about the spring break. I think that is had to take into account. One thing I have noticed is during the LinkedIn messaging and also through just on the follow-up and the follow-up message and then also the 7-day message, I've gotten like a lot of replies. People are interested, and they just for some reason I just don't get them on the call. Like I send them emails and I just don't get responses. So it might be that they're they're on break or whatever, or they're doing a job. But that's something that I've noticed is that I've gotten a lot of people replying to the LinkedIn messages, and then I send them an email, try to schedule a call. They just, they don't respond.
Yeah, I mean, with that market, they are on the go. They are more mobile, so that is something that will happen more. But yeah, like I said, I think last time we talked about it, I would just work on probably, maybe doing some tech stuff with them, and then, trying to think. I mean, probably just something more in the messaging to figure out even why some of them are no showing. Like if they said it, like give me an example. Like, okay, you did a qualifying call, and then when did you book the appointment after that? Like, how far in advance was it?
Okay, so one of them was a week later. Because he said, "Oh, I could do this on next Friday." Actually, two of them were a week later. Another one was, I think I talked to the guy on Thursday, and we're supposed to talk on Monday, and the guy just didn't reply. Haven't seen him. Actually, yeah, he had a call scheduled on Monday, and then said, "Oh, let's reschedule for Tuesday." It was actually a father, a father and son. Say they both say they knew to reschedule for Tuesday, and then I haven't heard back from Tuesday. So I called them and say, "Hey, what's going on?" And that's basically it. So that's the reason. I mean, I'm getting people showing up and just no response. So I don't know if it's the niche. I think it might be the niche or the messaging. Just trying to figure out.
When you get on the qualifying calls, does that show up rate pretty good?
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty sure. I've had like 10 calls. Yeah, it's really the strategy sessions where it haven't showed up.
Okay. Well, then I would just, at this point, modify the qualifying call and just go straight into strategy session. I would just be like, hey, based on what you've told me here, this sounds like this would make sense to keep chatting. And you can say something along the lines of, I had another call that we just had to reschedule for, pushed out an hour. So we can keep going right now, or we can reschedule this call for, 2 days from now or whatever, something along those lines. And so only give them like 2 days out to schedule, and then also the option of moving forward there on that call. Because if we get them on the qualifying calls, then that's good. That just means we just need to move up the process a little bit.
Okay, that's good. All right. And then just for the email metrics, numbers are not bad?
Those aren't bad at all. I mean, I'd work on the open rate a little bit. So 56% overall is a bit on the lower side. You want to see more like 70 to 80%. So that's the main area I see for some improvement, but the responses on everything else sound good.
Okay. Okay. Right. The subject I have is, I think, the open rate is really based on the subject line. I think the subject line I have is, let's see, it's basically Mauricio Cardinal from LinkedIn. Quick question about your business. That's the whole. It's pretty long, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just your name from LinkedIn. Like that could be something you test, or
Okay.
come up, just look at some different subject line ideas and come up with something that's like a little bit shorter. I mean, 3-word subject lines work really good. 3-4 word ones, because a lot of people are mobile. So, yeah.
Got it. All right, I'll test that out.
Cool. Keep you posted.
Thank you, man.
Bye. All right, so we got one last question here from Davij. Hey, man.
Hey, man. Great call so far. Definitely a lot of good sales tips that I'm going to be typing verbatim and probably saying to my clients. But I had a question on service delivery. So there's a campaign that I'm running, and he got around like 15 or so leads in about 7 to 10 days, right? And in the 2 weeks following that, he's only gotten like 4 or 5 leads. Do you think that's just statistically significant, or do you think, what could be going wrong with the campaign? Nothing's really changed.
So you said he went from 15 to 5?
Yeah, 15 leads in about 7 to 10 days to 5 leads in 2 weeks.
Who was running the campaign?
Ed.
Hey, what's his explanation?
Um, I asked him, and he said we did a deep dive and we added a couple negatives and added converting keywords and tweaked the ad extensions. He did it on Friday, but I looked at the changes that he made, and there was literally like 6 things that he added. So I don't see how that could make too big of a difference.
Okay. So basically everything was fine, and then something was changed, and then the leads went down, or nothing was
Nothing
changed?
really was changed.
Well, then it could just be some fluctuation.
Damn, that's pretty drastic.
But something probably changed.
So I haven't actually taken a look at the contractors that you have in your section. Who do you think would be great for attorneys?
I potentially have, what's his name? I think Pauline. Have
Yeah.
Pauline look at it.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Was that like your main go-to guy?
No, not necessarily. I'm just saying he's the guy I would talk to in this situation.
Gotcha.
I mean, if something was, I mean, for one, you got to double check all the variables, make sure like landing page, everything, like software, nothing. Like, let's say they added some pixels to the site, right? Some software that wasn't on there before, and now the landing page went from loading in like 2 seconds to 3 seconds, right? Something little like that you don't even think about, like that can cause a problem, right? So whatever it was, ideally, I don't care what it was, you should go back to exactly how things were those first 2 weeks, like 100%, no exceptions.
Gotcha. So you're saying it could be like they might have added a pixel and then the page loads slower and people
It
are
could
clicking
be,
and then backing
well,
out?
you don't know what it is. It could be anything. So my point is I would go 100% back to exactly where everything was without exceptions. Anything that is at all part of the process from ads to landing page, anything as part of that experience that was done needs to be reverted and then go back to where it was. And then I'd also have another contractor take a look. That's
Sure.
it.
Can I send you my landing page for you to kind of look over?
I would probably just send to the contractor.
All right.
Cool. Well, let me know what to say.
Yep.
All right. John has a question here. Hey, John.
Hello. Thank you for taking up another question. So I'm just starting out and I'm trying to figure out what niche I should go into. And so far, what I've come up with is that I work with realtors and debt management companies. What do you think about those?
Yeah, those are both. Those could both be good options. You and I actually, we are scheduling a call this week. That's actually the main thing we cover on our first call, is going through specifically like the niche selection and stuff. So I'm actually going to chat you some details about that after this call.
Okay.
But yeah, either of those could make sense.
Okay. And next question is so far on my LinkedIn, I don't have a lot of content to put on it because I don't have a lot of credentials. I actually have 0 credentials overall. And so if I don't have any case studies or anything to show to my potential clients, how do I close them? Just like straight just distributing information?
So yeah, I mean, if you look at some of the examples there, I mean, not too many people have case studies to leverage on their LinkedIn profiles, and everybody has, without exception, gotten clients without case studies, their first few clients, because nobody has them. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. That's something we do kind of cover in week 3. We've got like some multiple different profile examples and stuff that you can model. But I wouldn't worry about it because, I mean, you don't just like say, hey, here's the case studies, do you want the results? Like, it's the sales process we have kind of bypasses a lot of that. So the main thing, I wouldn't worry about the lack of case studies and results and things like that, because that's not been a challenge for you or anybody that I've worked with, unless they constantly were dwelling on that fact. So yeah, not going to be an issue. We work with plenty of people that didn't have lots of experience to leverage. A guy was just talking, Devish, 23 years old, didn't have a whole lot of experience to leverage and just did $10,000 a month, so it's not been a problem.
All right, cool. That sounds great. So what can I say to my clients? Like, what kind of results can they expect from the contractors that I hire?
Part of that we'll figure out by talking with them, because then they'll be able to share some of their experiences that they've seen.
Okay, great. And last question. I'm not entirely sure what the setup fee is for. Is that something that's completely necessary?
It's not completely necessary. It's just there to create like an incentive for them to move forward today.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, hey, this is the typical investment. We typically have a setup fee, but hey, I mean, if this is something you want to get started on today, we can kind of waive that setup fee, and then you just have to pay the first month's management fee.
All right. All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure, no problem, man. All right, last question from Alex before we wrap up. Hey, Alex, got you unmuted.
Thanks, Josh. My question is basically when it comes to LinkedIn SLS, because right now I'm sending out, invitations, and I'm doing thank you manually because it didn't work. So I will watch Cliff's video again. But when it comes to 7-day follow-up, should I do them manually, or should I just put all of them in Woodpecker? But I haven't got good response in Woodpecker.
Yeah, I wouldn't get too stuck on it. I mean, if the follow-ups aren't working for you, then yeah, just go straight into Woodpecker. But I think we got worked around that, so feel free to reach out to Cliff about that.
Okay. So basically, 7-day follow-up is working?
As far as I know, it's working for a lot of people.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I haven't tried it out. I did it manually, but it's, going through 50 people manually, it's taking a lot of time, so I just try to figure out.
I mean, the 7-day is not absolutely essential. In fact, I wouldn't even do it manually. I'd just go into Woodpecker if the 7-day isn't working for you.
Okay. Thanks, Josh.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Looks like that's all the questions for today. So it's been a really good call, guys. So we'll go ahead and wrap this up, post recording in the group. And in the meantime, anybody else has any questions, post them in the group, and we'll keep the conversation going. We'll talk to you guys on the call Thursday. Thanks.